Chapter 9 Control Statements in Python. Learning Objectives. Control statements, selection statements, looping statements, jumping statements. Introduction. Python is an object-oriented, high-level programming language which is popularly used for creating dynamic websites, developing computer programs, software, web applications, mobile apps, and interactive 3D games. It is a simple programming language which is developed to focus on code readability. You have already learned about Python basics, input and print functions in previous class. Let us learn about various control statements and how to use these statements in Python programs in this chapter. Control statements. Control statements are used to control the flow of the program. The order of the execution of the program can be controlled on the basis of values and logic. Three types of control statements used in Python are selection statements, looping statements, jumping statements. Let us learn about these statements in detail. Selection statements. Selection statements are the conditional statements which contain some condition in a program. The output of that condition can either be true or false. The statements will be executed depending on the outcome of the condition. It means if the condition is true, the statements in true block will get executed, and if the condition is false, the statements in false block will get executed. Fact file. When you write if condition and press enter after writing colon, cursor moves to next line, which is indented by 4 spaces to start the block of statements. If statement. If statement is a simple conditional statement in which there is only one condition. Firstly, a condition is checked. If a condition is true, the statements in the true block is executed. If a condition is false, the control jumps out of the if statement. In this statement, there is no false block, so it does nothing if a condition fails. Syntax. If condition, statements. Let us create a Python program to find whether a person is eligible for voting. Here you have seen that if user types the age above or equal to 18, the output will be you are eligible for voting. But if he types age less than 18, say 15, the program does nothing and control comes out of if statement.
If-else statement.
If-else statement is a conditional statement which contains an else block. In this type of a statement, firstly a condition is checked. If a condition is true, then the true block is executed. If the condition is false, then the false block is executed. After executing the true block or false block, the control comes out of the
if-else statement.
Syntax. If condition, statement 1, else statement 2. Let us create a Python program to find whether a person is eligible for voting, where statement 1, statements of true block, statement 2, statements of false block. Let us create a Python program to check whether a person is eligible for voting or not using
if-else statement.
In program 2, user has input a value 25. Which satisfies the condition. Therefore, it has printed the statement in true block, that is, you are eligible for voting. Now let us enter the value less than 18, say 15, and find out the result. Here condition is false. Therefore, statement in false block has printed, that is, you are not eligible for voting. Elif statement. Elif statement is a conditional statement which is used to add multiple conditions in a program. Firstly, a first condition is checked. If a condition is true, the statements in true block are executed and control jumps out. If a condition is false, the next condition will be checked and so on. Syntax. If condition 1, statement 1, elif, condition 2, statement 2. Elif, condition 3, statement 3. Else, statement n. Let us create a Python program to find the greatest of 3 numbers. Nested if statement. When you add an if statement within another if statement, It is called nested if. Let us create the above program of finding the greatest of three numbers using nested if. Looping statements. Looping statements, also known as iteration statements, are used to execute some set of statements in a program multiple times. These set of statements are repeated until a specified condition is met. There are two types of looping statements: for loop and a while loop. For loop. For loop, also known as definite loop, executes the set of statements to the fixed number of times. It is used to iterate over a numeric range or over a collection of items. For loop over a numeric range. In this for loop, a range function is used to specify the range. This function returns a sequence of numbers starting from start value and increments by 1 by default and stops before the end value. Syntax of range. Range, start, end, increment. Fact file. If the increment argument is not mentioned, then it will be 1 by default, where start specifies the start value of the sequence, end specifies the end value of the sequence, increment used to increment the variable by the specified number. Syntax of for with range. For item in range, arguments, statements. Let us create a Python program to print 1 to 10 natural numbers.
For loop, we used collection of items. For loop can also be used with the collection of items which can be in the form of string, list, tuple or dictionary.
Syntax for item in collection statements. Note: if the collection is a list or tuple, for loop will go through each element of the list or tuple. If the collection is a string, for loop will go through each character in a string. If the collection is a dictionary, for loop will go through each key of key value pair. Let us create a Python program to print each character in a given string using for loop. While loop. While statement is used to repeat the set of statements while a given condition is true. In this loop, a condition is checked. If a condition is true, the set of statements in the code block are executed and control goes back to the condition. This process continues until the condition is false. Syntax: while condition statements. Let us create a Python program to print a series of odd numbers using while loop. Let us understand how this loop works. The value of I is equal to 1 initially, and suppose user has entered the value of n is equal to 20. Firstly, a condition is checked. That is, if I is less than or equal to 20, it is true. It will print the value of I, which is 1, and a blank space. It increments the value of I by 2, therefore I is equal to 3 now. A condition is checked again. 3 is less than or equal to 20. It is true. It will print the value of I, which is 3 now, and a blank space. It increments the value of I by 2, therefore I is equal to 5 now. The control goes back to the condition and again check the value of I against 20. 5 less than or equal to 20. It is true. It will print the value of I, which is 5, and print blank space. Then the value of I is incremented by 2. So the value of I is 7 now. The control goes back to the condition and the same process will continue until we get the value of I, which is greater than 20. When the condition becomes false, the loop stops and control comes out to execute other statements, if any. Fact file. Infinite loop is that loop which runs continuously when it meets the true condition. In this loop, a condition is never false. Jumping statements. The set of statements in a program are normally executed in a sequential manner, but the sequence of the statements while execution can be broken with the help of jumping statements. Jumping statements are used to jump the control unconditionally to any part of the program. When a jumping statement is encountered while executing a program, a control jumps to the specified portion by skipping all the statements in between. There are 3 jumping statements used in Python: break, continue, and pass. Break statement. Break statement is used to terminate the loop and transfers the control out of the loop. Let us create a Python program to illustrate the use of break statement. Continue statement. Continue statement is used to skip the remainder of the loop body and transfers the control to the beginning of the loop for the next iteration. Let us create a Python program to illustrate the use of continue statement. This program will execute normally until I is equal to 6. When the value of I is equal to 5, it will skip the print. This is a while loop statement and control goes back to while loop. Pass statement. Pass statement is like a null operation. When this statement is executed, nothing happens and the control simply moves to the next statement to execute it. Let us create a program to illustrate the use of pass statement. Quick backup. Python is an object-oriented, high-level programming language which is popularly used for creating dynamic websites, developing computer programs, software, etc. Control statements are used to control the flow of the program. Selection statements are the conditional statements which contain some condition in a program. If-else statement is a conditional statement which contains an else block. When you add an if statement within another if statement, it is called nested if. Looping statements, also known as iteration statements, are used to execute some set of statements in a program multiple times. While statement is used to repeat the set of statements while a given condition is true. Jumping statements are used to jump the control unconditionally to any part of the program. Pass statement is like a null operation.